Hi there! Welcome back to another weekly math video. My name is Christy and I am a math teacher and private math tutor, and today I am bringing you a video that I have wanted to make in a really long time. It is the most common mistakes I see in algebra as both a private math tutor with my algebra students or as an algebra teacher. And these are mistakes I see over and over again. So if we cannot make these same mistakes and learn from them, we will do better not only in algebra, but in every math class that comes after algebra because you use these same skills. So thank you so much for tuning into this video again. I think it's a really important one. It's one I've wanted to make in a long time, and I hope you find some value in watching this video. If you do, make sure to give it a like, comment below, because that allows other students the ability to see this video, and it is definitely one that is worth watching. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe so that you can see other weekly math videos as I post them. Alright, so the first common mistake I'd like to talk about is this one. And I would say this is the most common mistake I see in all of my algebra students or in working with students that I'm tutoring in algebra, is how to find x plus 5 squared. Let me first show you what not to do, and then I will show you the correct way to do it. So a lot of students think that they can just basically distribute in the squared to the x and the 5. So they think about this problem as x squared plus 5 squared. They just think square each term inside of the parentheses, and then that would give x squared plus 25. But that is not the correct way to do this problem. When students do this, I really think of what they're thinking about is if you were multiplying inside the parentheses. So if instead of addition, your operation was multiplication, let's say something like x times 5 being squared, then you can square each term inside the parentheses. So this would be x squared times 5 squared, or 5 squared 25, x squared. So you can think about bringing in that squared to every single term inside only if it was multiplication or division, not if you had addition of two terms or subtraction of two terms. So how should we do it instead? Well, instead, when I see something being squared, I think that that is x plus 5 times itself. So you would multiply x plus 5 times itself 2 times. And then here you would need to distribute, or some teachers or tutors may call it double distribute, or some may even call it FOIL. So you may have heard kind of some different terms thrown around there. So I just think first I need to multiply x to the x and the 5. So that would give me x squared plus 5x. Then you would need to distribute the 5, so 5 to the x and the 5. Distributing means you would multiply them in to give us 5x plus 25. Combining these two like terms, you would have a final answer of x squared plus 10x plus 25. Notice doing it the correct way, we get this middle term of 10x, where when you do it the incorrect way, we just get x squared plus 25, and we're missing out on that very important middle term of 10x. Again, this is the most common error I see in algebra, so let's make sure to learn from it and not make this very common mistake. All right, the next one is this. Fractions, okay? So how would you simplify fractions, for example? Well, I'll tell you, to start, both of these fractions that you see on the screen can actually not be simplified. They are as simplified as you can go, but students look at this and they're like, I really want to simplify this. I really want to go further, but you actually can't. So what do I see a lot? Let me write this in red. I see students see the 6x divided by 2x and think, well, I'll just divide those. 6x divided by 2x would give me 3, or some maybe say 3x, but they think they can divide them. So a lot of times I see students write something like 3 over -1 or something like that, because they're thinking, okay, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and maybe the x's cancel. But we cannot do that. And the reason is because 6x is being divided by the quantity 2x minus 1. So we can't just go in and take 6x and divide it by only one term of that quantity, even if it was the 2x or the -1. You cannot do that. So actually, this is as fully simplified as you can go, and you would stop there. Same thing with the fraction on the right. A lot of my students want to incorrectly cancel out these x's and say the answer is -7 divided by 4. But once again, that is incorrect because the numerator is really the quantity x minus 7 divided by the quantity x plus 4. So the only time you could cancel that is if there was another quantity of x minus 7 in the denominator. So when could you cancel the x's? I would say if you had a problem such as, let's say if it was x squared minus 7x over x squared plus 4x. Let's say this was the problem instead. Well, you could then factor out an x from the numerator and factor out an x from the denominator. And you know what? Now you can cancel out those x's because they are being multiplied to those other factors. And then this would simplify to x minus 7 over x plus 4. So if you can factor out a term and then cancel those factors, then you could simplify further. So another reason we could see that this doesn't work is what if we put x as a certain number? What if we said, okay, x equals 3. Well, with our example, the incorrect way that students simplify this, again, is to cancel out these x's and say -7 over 4. This is the incorrect way. Well, let me show you why that doesn't work. Let's say I made x 3, and I made 3 minus 7 over 3 plus 4. This would give you -4 over 7. Notice that is not the same as -7 over 4. So once again, if you have a problem like this is fully simplified. You cannot cancel those x's out. It is a common mistake that I see my algebra students make, so make sure you don't make that same mistake. All right, here is the next most common algebra mistake. It is to find -4 squared. If you're asked to square -4, I'll show the incorrect way first. I see a lot of times -4 squared. Well, you know what this really means? This really means do 4 times itself and make your answer negative. And so students would come up with an answer of -16. Or they would type it in their calculator as -4 squared, just like that, and get the number -16. But that is incorrect. The correct way to square -4 is to think about it in parentheses. And this is especially important when you have a negative number. So -4 squared would look like this. That would mean you want to take -4 times itself. And so you should get a +16 rather than a -16. Another common algebra error. Okay, let's look at the next one here. What if I had to subtract 2x minus 5 from 7x squared plus 3x minus 1? A common mistake is the subtraction part of it. So if I need to subtract 2x minus 5 from this polynomial, let's start with 7x squared plus 3x minus 1 minus. Now, I am subtracting the quantity 2x minus 5, so the key step here is to use parentheses. Minus the quantity 2x minus 5. As soon as I see that, it reminds me I need to distribute the negative inside the parentheses. I need to multiply the -1. You can kind of think about that being a -1 inside to both of those terms. So what I'm really doing is I'm combining 7x squared plus 3x minus 1 minus 2x and plus 5. A lot of times students remember to subtract the 2x, but they don't think to add the 5 and they leave it as -5. So make sure that you don't make that error. Combining like terms gives me a final answer of 7x squared plus 1x plus 4 as the final answer. So again, the mistake that I see is students writing 7x squared plus 3x minus 1 minus 2x minus 5, and they get a different answer when they combine like terms because they keep it as a -5 when really we're subtracting the quantity. Okay, common mistake I see right there. Let's look at one more. And remember, if you're finding this helpful, which I hope you are, I see these all the time and it's just always in me to want to make sure students don't make these mistakes anymore. So make sure to subscribe because you'll see similar videos where I can help you with various math topics. All right, the last common algebra mistake I see all the time is taking the square root of x squared minus 64 and thinking that we can go further with this. The truth is, this is as simplified as you can go. Square root of x squared minus 64, if you see that, you actually cannot go any further. What do I see? Is I see students think that they can take the square root. So they think about it like this. They think they can take the square root of x squared and take the square root of 64, almost like distributing the square root inside. If you see addition or subtraction between two terms, you cannot think of the square root on each term. This is not equal to x minus 8. That does not work. And you can see this, like if you were to plug in a number for x, you could see that that doesn't work. So for example, let me show you that. So let's say I were to plug in an x value of, I don't know, let's do 2. So then let's see, 2 squared minus 64 is 8 squared. If you do the square root of each term, which is incorrect, so I'm going to write this in red, this is not equal to the square root of 2 squared minus the square root of 8 squared, which would be 2 minus 8 or negative 6. Let's think about what these numbers would be. This would really be the square root of 4 minus 64, which is the square root of negative 60, which by the way would give you an imaginary number anyways. It would not give you the number negative 6 that we saw over here, which is the incorrect way to do it. So I think when students think of square rooting both terms, they're really thinking, what if this were multiplication? Then you could. So if this had been x squared times 64, for example, then you could take the square root of x squared and multiply it by the square root of 64. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 64 is 8. So this would equal 8x. That only works if you have multiplication between two terms rather than addition or subtraction between two terms. All right, those are the common algebra mistakes I see all the time, and I don't want you to make those same mistakes. So please play back the video if you need to so that you can see them again and learn from these mistakes. All right, everyone, I hope you give this a like and comment below. It allows other students to see this video as well, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next video, everyone. Have a great day.